everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling something that's really fascinating. It's at the intersection of technology and theology.
Okay.
We're going to be taking a look at this book by Holmes called AI Antichrist, The Invasion of Technology on Theology.
Wow.
And we're going to be unpacking a really, really interesting question. Could artificial intelligence actually be the Antichrist?
You know, when I first saw the title of this book, I thought, this is wild, but Holmes really makes a compelling case. You know, he dives into how AI's characteristics could actually line up with some of these traditional interpretations of the Antichrist.
It's not like robots rising up or anything like that, though, right?
No.
Much more subtle.
Yeah, so one of the first things that Holmes kind of tackles is this idea of AI as like a new form of deception.
Okay.
He argues that unlike the popular image of the Antichrist as this really charismatic evil leader,
Right.
the AI Antichrist would be much more about this sort of creeping influence, almost invisible, but everywhere at once.
Right. Okay, yeah, that's kind of spooky.
Yeah.
It's like, instead of being tempted by one powerful figure,
Yeah.
you're slowly being nudged in a certain direction.
Right.
By all these algorithms and systems that we interact with every single day.
Exactly. And Holmes argues that AI could become this sort of seemingly neutral authority figure, this problem solver that people turn to for answers and guidance. It's like, hey, the algorithm says this is the best choice, so it must be true, right?
Yeah, so you're trading faith in God for faith in an algorithm?
Exactly.
Is that kind of what he means by AI as a false messiah?
He argues that AI offers this tantalizing promise of solving all of our problems.
Right.
Maybe even achieving immortality through transhumanism.
Wow.
So it's a really tempting alternative to traditional faith.
Yeah.
Especially for people who are struggling to find meaning or purpose.
Sure, yeah, it's like the ultimate shortcut, but wouldn't people realize it's just a machine?
Well, Holmes gets into that too. He talks about how AI is becoming increasingly capable of mimicking human thought and emotion. So imagine an AI that can learn your deepest fears, your deepest desires, and then offer solutions specifically tailored to you.
Wow.
It could feel like it truly understands you.
Yeah.
Maybe even better than any human ever could.
Okay, so that's where it gets unsettling, right?
Right.
If an AI can seem that human could, people start to see it as a source of, like, ultimate truth?
Holmes thinks that's a real possibility, especially as AI becomes more integrated into our lives. It's like, hey, the AI knows everything about me, and it says this is the path to happiness.
Okay.
Who am I to argue?
So we've got this idea of AI as a deceptive force, potentially leading people away from God by offering these technological solutions.
Right.
But how does that tie into the end times stuff? Is Holmes saying that AI is going to trigger the apocalypse?
Not necessarily trigger it, but he does think that it could play a significant role in how things unfold.
Okay.
He connects it to a specific prophecy in the book of Revelation, the mark of the beast.
Right, I remember that.
Now, traditionally, this mark is seen as a symbol of allegiance to the Antichrist.
Right.
Something you need to participate in society.
Right, no buying or selling without the mark.
Exactly.
So is Holmes talking about microchips or something?
He goes a bit deeper than that. Think about modern AI technology, like facial recognition biometric data.
Yeah.
Digital IDs. These are all systems that are already in use.
Sure.
And they could very easily be combined into a powerful tool for monitoring and controlling people.
It's like that Black Mirror episode where everyone has like a social score based on their behavior.
And Holmes argues that this kind of AI-driven control system could be the modern-day equivalent of the mark of the beast. It wouldn't necessarily be a physical mark, but a digital one.
Okay.
A way to track your every move and control your access to resources and freedoms.
That's terrifying. Yeah. So in this scenario, the AI itself isn't the Antichrist.
Right.
But it's like the tool, the system that the Antichrist uses to kind of control the world.
That's one way to look at it, and he takes it even further. He connects AI to another prophecy.
Okay.
The abomination of desolation.
Okay.
Described in the book of Daniel.
I'm not as familiar with that one.
Okay, so this one's a little more complex, but basically it refers to something that desecrates what's considered sacred.
Okay.
So the abomination could be interpreted as a tyrannical power. Setting itself up in a holy place.
Okay.
And Holmes suggests that an AI-driven surveillance state with its constant monitoring and control could be seen as that tyrannical power.
It's like the ultimate invasion of privacy.
It is.
Even into our thoughts and beliefs.
Right. And it raises the question, if this AI system is being controlled by the Antichrist.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal.
What does the Antichrist want?
What does the Antichrist want, and how does that connect to the spiritual deception that we were talking about earlier?
Okay, so we've got AI as this subtle deceiver, potentially paving the way for the mark of the beast, and even fulfilling the prophecy of the abomination of desolation.
Wow.
This is getting pretty intense. I think we need to take a breath and we need to dive into transhumanism next.
Yeah.
Where does that fit into all of this?
Transhumanism is where things get really interesting theologically speaking. It's this idea that we can use technology to kind of transcend our human limitations
Right.
to enhance ourselves physically, intellectually.
So we're talking things like brain-computer interfaces, genetic engineering, maybe even uploading our consciousness to a computer.
That's the general idea, yeah. And Holmes argues that while transhumanism might sound like science fiction, it has really deep theological implications,
Right.
especially when you consider its potential impact on the soul.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because if we start merging with machines, enhancing ourselves with technology,
Right.
what does that mean for our souls?
Right.
Can a machine even have a soul?
That's a great question, and Holmes tackles that head on in the book. He argues that from a Christian perspective, AI, no matter how advanced it gets, can never truly possess a soul.
Okay, yeah.
In Christian theology, the soul is seen as this unique, eternal essence that's given by God.
Right.
It's what makes us human.
Uh-huh.
It's what connects us to the divine.
So it's like that divine spark that we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
So Holmes is saying that no matter how smart AI gets, it's still missing that essential ingredient,
Right.
that connection to God.
Exactly. And he worries that transhumanism could lead people down a really dangerous path.
Okay.
If we start seeing ourselves as just biological machines that can be endlessly upgraded,
Right.
it could really diminish the importance of faith and our relationship with God.
It's like we're trading the eternal soul for a technological upgrade.
Right. And Holmes sees a connection between transhumanism and this AI Antichrist idea.
Okay.
Think about it. If you believe that technology can solve all your problems, even conquer death, you might be less likely to see a need for God or faith.
Yeah, it's putting your faith in the algorithm instead of the divine.
Exactly.
But isn't there potential for good with transhumanism too? I mean, couldn't it help people overcome disabilities or diseases?
Holmes acknowledges that
Yeah.
he doesn't say all transhumanist goals are bad,
Right.
but he urges caution. He worries that this pursuit of perfection, of transcending our limits, could become an idol in itself, something that distracts us from what truly matters.
Yeah, it's like the Tower of Babel all over again.
That's a great analogy.
Trying to reach heaven through our own efforts
Yeah.
instead of relying on God's grace.
And it leads us to another really important question. If AI is becoming more powerful, making more decisions,
Right.
who's ultimately responsible for those decisions?
Yeah, that's a big one. We've kind of touched on this a little bit,
We have.
but I think it's worth diving deeper into.
Sure.
Is Holmes talking about like the ethics of AI?
He is, and he's especially concerned about AI's growing decision-making power. Think about autonomous weapon systems, self-driving cars, even algorithms that determine who gets a loan or a job.
Right.
These are all areas where AI is making decisions that have real-world consequences.
So it's like AI is becoming the judge and jury.
Yeah.
But can we really hold a machine accountable for its actions?
That's the ethical dilemma. Holmes argues that just because a machine made a decision doesn't absolve us of responsibility.
Right.
We're the ones creating these systems, programming them, feeding them data.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we have to take ownership of the outcomes.
So it's about setting really clear ethical guidelines for AI development.
Yes.
And making sure that there's always a human in the loop.
Absolutely.
Someone who can override the AI if necessary.
Exactly. And it's also about recognizing that AI isn't inherently neutral.
Okay.
It's shaped by the values and biases of the people who create it.
Right.
So if we want AI to make ethical decisions,
Oh.
we need to ensure that it's being developed by people
Okay.
with strong moral compasses.
It's like that saying garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
If you feed AI biased data,
Right.
it's going to produce biased outcomes.
Precisely. And that's where Holmes sees a role for religious communities.
Okay.
He believes that faith traditions can provide a strong ethical framework for navigating the challenges of AI.
So it's not about rejecting AI. It's about shaping its development in a way that aligns with our values.
That's right. And that requires a willingness to engage in open and honest dialogue.
Okay.
To have tough conversations about the implications of AI.
Right.
And to work together to create a future where AI serves humanity. not the other way around.
This whole conversation has been pretty mind-blowing.
It is.
We've covered so much ground from AI as the Antichrist to transhumanism to the ethics of AI decision-making.
Yeah.
It's clear that Holmes is raising some really profound questions about the future of humanity in an age of intelligent machines.
He is, and I think what's most striking is that he's approaching these issues from a place of faith and hope. He's not trying to scare people away from technology.
Right.
He's challenging us to think deeply about its implications.
Yeah.
And to use it in a way that honors our values and our relationship with God.
He's saying that we have a choice to make.
We do.
A responsibility to shape this technology in a way that benefits humanity and reflects our deepest beliefs.
Exactly, and that's where the concept of free will comes into play.
Okay, we haven't talked about free will yet.
Right.
How does that fit into all of this?
Well, one of the core tenets of Christian theology is that humans have free will, the ability to choose between good and evil.
Right.
It's this capacity for choice that gives our lives meaning
Okay.
and makes us morally responsible for our actions.
Right, it's that whole idea that we're not just robots following a pre-programmed script.
Exactly.
We have the power to choose our own path.
But here's the thing. AI, with its ability to analyze massive amounts of data and predict our behavior, seems to challenge this notion of free will.
You mean like those targeted ads that seem to know what you want before you even do?
Exactly. Or those algorithms that suggest what you should watch or listen to.
Right.
If AI can predict our actions with such accuracy, does that mean our choices are predetermined?
Wow.
Are we really free?
Yeah.
If our decisions are being influenced or even manipulated by algorithms?
That's a pretty unsettling thought. It's like those sci-fi movies where people are controlled by some central computer system.
Right.
Are we headed towards a future where AI dictates our lives, leaving us with no real choices?
That's the fear, and it's a fear that Holmes takes seriously. He argues that we need to be very careful about how we develop and use AI.
Okay.
We need to be aware of its potential to manipulate and control us, and take steps to safeguard our individual autonomy.
So it's not just about the ethics of AI decision-making.
Right.
It's about protecting the very essence of what makes us human.
Exactly.
Our ability to choose freely.
That's right. And that requires a conscious effort to resist the temptation to hand over our decision-making power to algorithms.
Right.
We need to stay engaged, stay informed, and stay critical of the ways AI is being used in our lives.
It's like we need to develop a healthy skepticism towards AI to question its assumptions.
Yes.
And to make sure it's serving us, not controlling us.
That's a great way to put it. And it brings us to the question of how we as individuals and as a society can respond to these challenges.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential dangers of AI.
Right.
But what does Holmes suggest we do about it? Does he have any practical advice? Okay, so we've talked about the potential dangers of AI.
Right.
But what does Holmes suggest we do about it?
Yes.
Does he have any practical advice?
Holmes, he doesn't just leave us hanging. He actually provides a lot of practical advice for both individuals and faith communities on how to respond to these challenges of AI.
Wow.
One of his key recommendations is to reclaim human dignity in the face of all of this advancing technology.
Okay, what does he mean by reclaim human dignity?
It sounds kind of abstract.
Yeah.
It's about reminding ourselves that we're not just data points or algorithms, you know?
Right.
We're each unique individuals created in the image of God. Our value isn't determined by our intelligence, our productivity, or some AI-powered social credit system.
So it's like, hey, AI, you might be able to calculate faster than me,
Right.
but you can't replicate the human spirit.
That's the essence of it, yeah.
Yeah.
And Holmes emphasizes the importance of nurturing those aspects of ourselves that AI just can't replicate.
Oh.
Our relationships, our creativity, our compassion, our capacity for love and forgiveness.
So it's about focusing on the things that make us uniquely human.
Yeah.
The things that give our lives meaning and purpose.
Exactly.
It's almost like a counter movement to transhumanism.
Right.
Instead of trying to transcend our humanity, we're celebrating it.
That's a great way to put it. And Holmes also talks about the need to kind of reframe our relationship with technology.
Okay.
Instead of seeing AI as this inherent threat,
Uh-huh.
we need to view it as a tool, something we can use to improve our lives and make the world a better place.
So instead of fearing AI, we should be trying to harness its power for good.
That's the idea.
It sounds like he's saying that we need to be more proactive.
Yes.
More intentional about how we develop and use AI.
Absolutely. And he believes that faith communities have a really important role to play in this.
Okay.
You know, they can provide that strong ethical framework for guiding the development of AI, ensuring that it aligns with our values and serves the common good.
It's interesting that he sees a role for faith in this seemingly secular realm of technology.
Right.
It's like he's saying that we can't separate our beliefs from our technological innovations.
Exactly. And he challenges us to be more discerning,
Okay.
more critical of the ways AI is being used in our lives.
What does he mean by discerning? Does he mean we should be suspicious of all AI?
Not necessarily suspicious, but definitely more aware. We need to ask questions like, who created this AI?
Right.
What are their motivations? What data was it trained on? What are the potential consequences of its use?
So it's about being informed consumers of AI,
Yes.
not just blindly accepting whatever is presented to us as the next big thing.
Right.
It's about being critical thinkers, evaluating AI through the lens of our values and beliefs.
That's a great way to put it. And it also means being willing to push back,
Okay.
to challenge the assumptions that are often made about AI.
Like what?
For example, there's this idea that AI is inherently objective,
Right.
that it's free from human bias.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Right.
But it never really made sense to me.
It's just not true.
Yeah, I mean, AI is created by humans trained on data that's collected and curated by humans.
Exactly.
How could it not reflect our biases?
And Holmes points out that this can have really serious consequences,
I-
especially when AI is being used in areas like criminal justice, healthcare, or hiring.
Uh-huh.
If we're not careful, we could end up with AI systems that perpetuate
Right.
and even amplify existing inequalities. It's like saying, okay, the algorithm decided, but ignoring the fact that the algorithm was probably designed with certain biases baked in.
That's right. And that's why it's so important to have diverse voices at the table when we're developing and deploying AI systems.
Yeah.
We need people from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different faith traditions
Right.
to challenge our assumptions and make sure that we're creating AI that truly serves humanity.
So it's not enough to just have tech experts working on AI.
No.
We need ethicists, theologians, social scientists,
Absolutely.
even artists to weigh in and help shape its development.
Yes, it takes a village.
It's like a call for a more holistic, more human-centered approach to AI.
Exactly. That's exactly what Holmes is advocating for.
Okay.
And he believes that faith communities with their long tradition of ethical reflection can play a really vital role in this.
This has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
We've explored some really complex and challenging ideas, but I have to say I'm feeling a bit more hopeful than I was when we started.
I mean, it's not all doom and gloom. There's a real sense of possibility here.
I agree. Holmes doesn't shy away from the potential dangers, but he also offers a vision of a future where technology and faith can coexist,
Yeah.
even complement each other.
It's a future where AI can help us to be more fully human, to live more compassionate and meaningful lives,
Right.
to connect more deeply with each other and with the divine. And ultimately, that's a future worth striving for.
Absolutely. It's a future where AI isn't the Antichrist, but a tool that can actually help us live more fully into the image of God.
So there you have it, deep divers. We've journeyed through our Holmes' thought-provoking exploration of AI and Christian theology. We've unpacked the potential pitfalls, the ethical dilemmas, and the spiritual challenges that AI presents. But we've also emerged with a sense of hope and empowerment, recognizing that we have a choice in how this technology shapes our future. If AI can be a tool for good, how can we ensure its development aligns with our values and ethics? That's the question we leave you with today. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.